This ends now. Your so-called strategic vision is destroying everything we've built. I slammed the quarterly report onto the glossy table. Jackson's face flushed crimson as 24 executives stiffened in their chairs. His knuckles whitened around his titanium water bottle. "Miss Thorne, you've been a thorn in my side since day one," he said, voice dangerously quiet. "This company needed modernization, and all you've done is obstruct progress at every turn." Progress? You call gutting health benefits for 3,000 workers progress? You call shipping jobs to factories with zero safety regulations innovation? His nostrils flared. I'd struck a nerve. The room temperature seemed to drop as executives avoided eye contact, studying their notepads with sudden fascination. "Your military background makes you uniquely unqualified to understand modern business necessities," Jackson said, standing to his full height. "The board selected me because I deliver results. Perhaps in your world of following orders and rigid hierarchies, you never learned how real businesses operate." The words stung more than I let show. 6 months of watching this man dismantle a 70-year legacy had pushed me past my breaking point. "Those real business tactics include the $3.4 million you've allocated for executive retreats while canceling retirement contributions?" I asked, opening another folder. Jackson's eye twitched. "Where did you get those figures?" "The same place I found documentation of your plans to remove the Harrington name from all products and facilities." His face transformed into something ugly. "You've accessed confidential materials. That's grounds for immediate dismissal." He pressed the intercom. "Security to the main boardroom. Now." 2 uniformed officers entered within seconds. Standard procedure for removals. I'd seen 3 executives escorted out during Jackson's brief tenure. But something unexpected happened. The officers looked at me, and their expressions changed. Both men straightened their postures instantly. "Ma'am!" The taller officer snapped a perfect salute. "Admiral Thorne, it's an honor." His partner followed suit. "Yes, ma'am, Admiral." The room fell completely silent. Jackson's mouth opened and closed, like a fish pulled from water. "These disruptions cannot continue," he finally sputtered. "Remove her immediately." Neither officer moved. "Ma'am?" the first asked, clearly uncomfortable with conflicting chains of command. I straightened my spine, muscle memory from 30 years of service taking over. "At ease, gentlemen. I appreciate your respect, but company protocol must be followed." I gathered my papers methodically. "I'll leave voluntarily." As I stood, using my cane for support, the boardroom remained frozen in collective shock. "Though before I go," I added, "I should mention that tomorrow's emergency shareholder meeting might be of interest to everyone here." I locked eyes with Jackson. "Especially you." His face drained of color as I limped toward the door, the officers stepping aside with subtle nods of respect. "This is ridiculous," Jackson sputtered. "What shareholder meeting? On whose authority?" I paused at the threshold. "Mine. If you're still with me through this tense standoff, please show your support with a like or subscribe." The story of how I ended up in this corporate battleground and what happens next gets much more intense from here. My name is Rita Thorne. For 30 years, I served in the United States Navy, climbing ranks through dedication and strategic thinking until I earned my Rear Admiral stars. I never expected to trade my uniform for business attire, especially not with my damaged leg and the nightmares that followed my last classified operation. The manufacturing company where this confrontation occurred was founded by my grandfather, Edwin Harrington, who built it from a small workshop into an industry leader. His portrait still hung in the lobby. For now, Jackson had scheduled its removal next month, along with every other trace of our family legacy. When I returned from overseas 3 years ago, my plan was simple: recover from my injuries, adjust to civilian life, and find purpose beyond military service. My cousin Patrick, who had been CEO for 15 years, suggested I join the board. "Keep it in the family," he'd said. I agreed on one condition: nobody would know my relation to Edwin. I wanted to earn respect, not inherit it. For 2 years, I served quietly, learning the business while Patrick maintained the company values. Then came his diagnosis: pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Within months, he was gone. The board, pressured by activist investors demanding higher returns, hired Jackson Webb, a darling of the business press known for aggressive restructuring of underperforming companies. His first day, he announced his vision: streamline operations, maximize shareholder value, and bring this company into the modern era. Translation: slash, costs, pump stock price, cash out. I limped to my office after the boardroom confrontation, my hand trembling slightly as I closed the door. The pain in my leg always intensified under stress. The titanium pins holding my femur together seemed to burn whenever I pushed myself too hard. My phone buzzed. A text from Linnea in Human Resources. He's closing the Employee Child Care Center. Effective immediately. The child care center my grandfather had opened in 1977, believing working parents deserved peace of mind. The center that had cared for over 3 generations of employees' children. I sank into my chair, memories flooding back. The day my grandfather showed me the factory floor, when I was 7, how he knew every employee by name, how he'd established the first retirement plan in the industry when competitors offered nothing. Business isn't just about products, he'd told me. It's about people. My office phone rang. Trevor from legal. Rita, he's on a rampage. He's demanding access to all board member communication records and threatening termination for anyone in contact with you. He can't do that. He's the CEO. He's doing it. A knock at my door. My assistant Dana peeked in, face pale. Miss Thorne, Mr. Webb wants your office cleared by end of day. Security will escort you out at 5. I nodded calmly. Thank you, Dana. After she left, I opened my laptop and sent a single message to 16 key shareholders. Operation Restoration begins tomorrow, 9 a.m. The responses came quickly, all affirmative. I was gathering my personal items when my phone rang again. Unknown number. Admiral Thorne? A voice I hadn't heard in years. This is Rita. Commander Ellis, ma'am. I've been stationed at Naval Intelligence since we last served together. Something urgent has come to my attention regarding Jackson Webb. His financial ties are concerning. My heartbeat quickened. What kind of concerns? The kind that involve national security. I can't say more over an unsecured line. Where can we meet? The usual place. 1 hour. The line went dead. The usual place. Our code for the memorial park where we'd held a service for our fallen team members. As I reached for my cane, the office door burst open. Jackson stood there, flanked by 2 different security guards. You've turned my security team against me, he snarled. I did nothing of the sort. Don't play innocent. I know who you are now. You think your military record intimidates me? You think being Edwin's granddaughter gives you special rights? So he discovered my family connection, sooner than expected. My rights come from owning 12% of this company's shares, I replied evenly, and from the voting agreements I've established with other major shareholders. His confidence wavered visibly. You're bluffing. Tomorrow's meeting will clarify that. Jackson stepped closer, lowering his voice. Let me make something perfectly clear. I've dealt with people like you before. Sentimentalists, traditionalists, always standing in the way of necessary change. By this time tomorrow, you'll not only be off this board, you'll never work in any industry again. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. Is that a threat, Mr. Webb? It's a promise. I know people, powerful people. I stood, ignoring the searing pain in my leg. So do I. We stood eye to eye, neither blinking. You have 30 minutes to vacate, he finally said, turning to leave. Jackson, I called after him. My grandfather had a saying, never start a war unless you know exactly who you're fighting. He paused briefly, then continued walking. I had 30 minutes to gather what I needed before meeting Commander Ellis. 30 minutes before I'd learn exactly what national security concerns connected to the man destroying my family's legacy. And less than 24 hours to prepare for the most important battle of my civilian life. What I didn't know then was that Jackson Webb had even darker secrets than financial improprieties. Secrets that would shake our company to its core. Secrets some people would kill to protect. I left the building with my head high, aware of curious eyes tracking my departure. My car, a modest sedan I'd chosen for its trunk space rather than status, waited in the parking garage. As I drove toward the memorial park, my mind raced through contingency plans. Commander Ellis was already there when I arrived, standing beside the bronze statue of a sailor. His military bearing remained intact, despite his civilian clothes. At 45, his hair had more salt than pepper, and new lines marked his face. Admiral, he said, the formality a habit neither of us could break. Rita, I corrected, gripping his outstretched hand. I've been Rita for 3 years now. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Old habits. Thank you for coming on short notice. We walked to a bench overlooking the harbor, far from other visitors, a security precaution I recognized from our operational days. Jackson Webb, he began without preamble. He's been on our radar for 16 months. His last 3 business turnarounds involved defense contractors. My skin prickled. Go on. In each case, he implemented aggressive cost-cutting measures, boosted short-term profits, then orchestrated acquisitions by overseas interests. Ellis handed me a thumb drive. Companies with known connections to foreign intelligence agencies. You're suggesting he's a deliberate actor? Not just a ruthless businessman? The pattern is too consistent. Each company he modernized had sensitive technologies. After acquisition, those technologies mysteriously appeared in foreign weapons systems. I thought of our company's aerospace division, the specialized parts we manufactured for military aircraft. Our defense contracts are small compared to our consumer goods. Small but crucial. Your proprietary aluminum alloy production method is classified. It's used in next-generation aircraft frames. The realization hit like physical pain, and Jackson's first move was replacing our head of aerospace with his own choice. Ellis nodded grimly. A man with 3 offshore accounts that receive regular payments from a shell corporation in Singapore. My grandfather had developed that alloy process during the Cold War. He'd refused to sell it, insisting it remain American-made for American aircraft. We've been building a case, Ellis continued, but Webb is careful. The FBI needs more time. And meanwhile, he's gutting our security protocols and calling it streamlining. I finished. Exactly. Last week, he downgraded clearance requirements for the manufacturing floor supervisors. My stomach tightened. That's not in any report I've seen. It wouldn't be. He's been keeping 2 sets of records. Official ones for the board, and actual operational changes. That's why I contacted you. We need someone on the inside who understands the national security implications. The shareholder meeting tomorrow may be your only chance to stop him before the damage becomes irreversible. We spent the next hour reviewing the evidence, names, dates, financial transfers, a web of connections that left little doubt about Jackson's true agenda. Not just a cost cutter, but potentially something far worse. As Ellis prepared to leave, he hesitated. There's one more thing, Rita. Personal. His expression softened. How are you doing? Really? The unexpected question caught me off guard. 3 years since the operation that ended my career, and he was the first person from my old life to ask. I manage, I answered truthfully. Some days are better than others. The team still talks about you, what you did that night, saving those hostages when the extraction went sideways, and losing half our unit in the process. I finished, the familiar weight of guilt settling over me. No one blames you. The intelligence was bad. We walked into an ambush. The memories flashed unbidden. The firefight, the explosion, waking up in a field hospital with a shattered leg, and the knowledge that 6 good people weren't coming home. I appreciate the sentiment, I said, my tone, making it clear the subject was closed. Ellis respected the boundary. With a final handshake, he left me alone with the weight of 2 crises, one from my past, one unfolding in real time. I had 12 hours until the shareholder meeting. 12 hours to prepare for a battle on multiple fronts, saving my grandfather's company and potentially stopping a breach of national security. My phone buzzed with a message from Beth, our elderly receptionist whom Jackson had scheduled for early retirement next month. Someone broke into your office after you left. It says your computer was accessed. So it had begun. Jackson was searching for anything he could use against me. Let him look. My military career had taught me never to leave sensitive information where it could be compromised. I drove to a small diner on the outskirts of town, one with poor cell reception and no security cameras. The kind of place I'd chosen for meetings during my intelligence days. A young waitress named Penny brought coffee without my asking. You look like you needed this, she said with a kind smile. Rough day? Just beginning? I replied. I opened my laptop, not my company one, but a personal device with military-grade encryption. Time to activate the network I'd been quietly building for months. First, an encrypted message to Darius in accounting, who had documented every questionable financial decision since Jackson's arrival. Then to Linnea in HR, who had cataloged the human cost of the modernization, the layoffs, the benefit reductions, the strategic removal of employees who'd been with the company for decades. Next, Marco in manufacturing, who had preserved the original quality control protocols Jackson had tried to eliminate. And finally, Leon in legal, who had secretly flagged the potential regulatory violations in Jackson's new operating procedures. Each responded within minutes. All were ready. The final piece was Yasmin, a cybersecurity expert I'd served with who now worked in the private sector. Her message was simple: file extraction complete, evidence secured. For 6 months, I'd watched Jackson's destructive path through our company. For 6 months, I'd gathered allies and evidence, building toward this moment. Not just for my grandfather's legacy, but now for something bigger. My phone rang. An unknown number again. Is this Rita Thorne? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Who's asking? My name is Imani Wade. I worked for Sentinel Industries until last year. Sentinel, one of the defense contractors Jackson had modernized before joining our company. How did you get this number? Commander Ellis suggested I contact you. I have information about Jackson Webb that might help you. Information I was too afraid to share until now. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can we meet? We arranged to meet at the diner in 30 minutes. I used the time to review the files from Ellis, looking for any mention of Imani Wade. Nothing. Either an oversight or deliberate omission. The diner door opened, and a woman entered, mid-30s, with watchful eyes that scanned the room before settling on me. She walked with purpose, sliding into the booth across from me. Miss Thorne? Her voice matched the phone. Call me Rita. She nodded, hands clasped tightly on the table. I was senior project manager at Sentinel, Specialized Components Division, until Jackson Webb arrived. Yes, bitterness tinged her voice. He called it strategic reorganization. Within 6 months, half our team was gone, replaced with people who asked too few questions about security protocols. What happened? Strange visitors. Restricted areas suddenly accessible to new hires with minimal background checks. When I raised concerns, I was transferred to customer service. 3 weeks later, my position was eliminated. You have proof? She slid a small package across the table. Access logs, visitor records, security override authorizations, all with Jackson's signature. Why come forward now? Her eyes met mine directly. Because yesterday, my former colleague, the one who helped me gather these records, died in a car accident. Single vehicle, no witnesses. A chill ran through me. You think it wasn't an accident? I think nothing about Jackson Webb happens by accident. The implications settled between us like a physical presence. This wasn't just corporate malfeasance. It was potentially deadly serious. There's more, Imani continued. 2 days before I was fired, I overheard Jackson on a call. He mentioned Harrington specifically. Said something about the old man's legacy being the perfect cover. My grandfather had been dead for 12 years. His name still carried weight in the industry, still represented quality and integrity. You think our company was targeted specifically, not just an opportunity? I think Jackson Webb has a particular interest in your family's business. And based on what happened at Sentinel, that's dangerous for everyone involved. As Imani shared more details, a clearer picture emerged. Jackson wasn't just dismantling our company's culture. He was systematically removing security barriers around our most sensitive technologies. We were nearly finished when the diner door opened again. A man in a dark suit entered, his gaze sweeping the room before landing on our table. Something in his posture, the controlled stillness, the alertness, triggered my operational instincts. We need to leave, I said quietly. Back exit, now. Imani's eyes widened, but she followed my lead without question as I dropped cash on the table and guided us toward the kitchen. Friend of yours? She whispered. Definitely not. The man moved toward our table as we pushed through the swinging doors, startling the cook. Sorry, I called, continuing toward the rear exit. Emergency. Outside, I hurried Imani to my car, both of us scanning the parking lot for threats. Who was that? She asked as we pulled away. Someone professional, someone who knew where to find us. I checked the rearview mirror. No obvious tail, which means our timeline just accelerated. The shareholder meeting was 12 hours away, but Jackson Webb was already moving against us. The question was, how much did he know about what we knew? And more importantly, what would he do to stop us from revealing it? The night stretched before us like an operational timeline. Imani and I drove to a small hotel outside the city limits, paying cash for a room where we could safely review the documents she'd brought. These security clearance changes, I said, pointing to a highlighted section, identical to what Jackson implemented last month at our facility. Page 12 shows the timeline at Sentinel, Imani replied. 6 months from protocol changes to full acquisition by Meridian Global. And 3 weeks after acquisition, sensitive technology appears in foreign military exercises. I massaged my throbbing leg, a habit when stress intensified the pain. We have 12 hours to stop the same thing happening to my grandfather's company. My phone buzzed. Trevor from legal. Webb called emergency executive session for 7 a.m., preempting your shareholder meeting. Jackson was moving faster than anticipated. Classic tactical maneuver. Strike before your opponent is fully prepared. He's trying to consolidate power before the shareholders assemble. I explained to Imani. We need to accelerate. I called Darius in accounting, waking him from sleep. Jackson's moving up his timeline. We need the financial records now. I've got them, but there's a problem, he answered, voice tense. Someone accessed my secure drive an hour ago. They might know what we have. Get somewhere safe. Send everything to the backup address. Next, I contacted Leon. His phone went straight to voicemail. Then Linnea, no answer. Marco picked up on the fourth ring, whispering urgently. 2 men came to my house asking questions. My wife said I was out of town. Are you safe? For now, using my hunting cabin phone. Stay there. I'll contact you through the secure channel. One by one, I discovered Jackson had moved against my entire network. Some had gone dark, following our emergency protocols. Others weren't responding at all. He's thorough, Imani observed grimly. Just like at Sentinel. But predictable, I countered. He's following the same playbook. That gives us an advantage. My military training took over as I formulated our response. Jackson expected me to defend. Instead, we would attack. He expected me to protect my network. Instead, I would activate my reserve forces. People he didn't know were connected to me. I called Yasmin, our cybersecurity expert. Time for Plan Omega. Already initiated, she replied. Remote archives activated. Dead man switches set. If anything happens to any of us, everything goes public automatically. Next, I contacted Ellis. Jackson's moving. He's identified some of my team. We suspected he might. That's why I held back certain information. Ellis paused. There's someone you need to meet. Now, the harbor warehouse. 20 minutes. The old warehouse had been a naval supply depot during World War II. Now, mostly abandoned, it stood as a hulking shadow against the night sky when we arrived. Ellis waited by a side entrance, accompanied by a slim woman with silver-streaked hair. Rita, this is Director Chen from Justice Department. Special Investigations. We shook hands, her grip firm and assessing. Admiral Thorne, your reputation precedes you. Former Admiral, I corrected. What's your interest in Jackson Webb? He's one piece in a larger puzzle. We've tracked 5 defense technology leaks to companies he's restructured, but Webb is merely the instrument, not the architect. You know who's behind him? We have strong suspicions. What we lack is definitive proof connecting Webb to foreign intelligence assets. That's where I come in, I surmised. Precisely. Your shareholder meeting provides the perfect opportunity. Webb believes he's outmaneuvered you. That makes him vulnerable. My priority is saving my company, I stated firmly. Our goals align, Chen assured me. Stop Webb, preserve national security, save your company, in that order. We spent the next hour refining our strategy. Chen provided additional intelligence on Webb's connections, including names of board members potentially compromised. Grace and Anthony, I said, recognizing 2 directors who had consistently supported Jackson's most aggressive cuts. They always vote as a block with him. Both have received substantial payments through the same shell company structure Webb uses, Chen confirmed. By 3 a.m., our plan was set. Ellis would coordinate with trusted security personnel. Chen would position federal agents discreetly around the building. Yasmin would monitor communications and be prepared to lock down digital systems. I would confront Jackson directly, the visible threat he expected, while the real operation unfolded behind the scenes. At 4 a.m., I returned to my apartment to shower and change. My dress uniform hung in the closet, untouched for 3 years. For a moment, I considered wearing it to the meeting, a symbolic statement of authority. Instead, I chose a simple charcoal suit. This wasn't about my military career. It was about my grandfather's legacy. As I fastened the small gold pin he'd given me on my graduation day, a miniature version of the company logo, my phone rang. Unknown number. Rita Thorne. Admiral. The voice was distorted. Deliberate electronic masking. I believe we have mutual interests regarding Jackson Webb. Who is this? Someone who knows Webb's real purpose at Harrington Manufacturing. Someone who knows what happened to your team 3 years ago wasn't an accident. My hand froze on the pin. Explain. The intelligence failure that led to your team's ambush. It came through channels Webb's associates controlled. Your retirement was convenient for certain interests. Cold fury rose within me. You're claiming my injury and the deaths of my team members were engineered to remove me from service? I'm saying patterns exist for those willing to see them. Webb specializes in removing obstacles, sometimes corporate obstacles, sometimes military ones. You have proof? Bring down Webb today, and proof will find its way to you. Fail, and certain documents regarding your final mission disappear forever. The line went dead. I stood motionless, mind racing through implications. If true, this connected everything: my military career, my grandfather's company, Jackson's appointment as CEO. Not coincidence, but calculation. I arrived at company headquarters at 6:15 a.m., earlier than expected. The lobby was quiet except for Beth at reception, whose surprised expression quickly turned to relief. "Miss Thorne, they said you'd been terminated. Reports of my professional death are greatly exaggerated," I replied with a wink. Beth leaned forward conspiratorially. "The executive session starts in 45 minutes. Mr. Webb has security posted at the boardroom doors. Any idea who's attending? The usual allies, Grace, Anthony, plus 3 directors who arrived from the airport an hour ago. They went straight to his office. Reinforcements. Jackson was consolidating support. Thank you, Beth." I headed toward the elevator but stopped. "One more thing. Is Walter still handling building maintenance?" "Yes, 35 years next month. If Jackson has his way, Walter's last day is Friday." Walter, who had taught me to fish when I was 10, who had attended my commissioning ceremony, who knew every inch of this building. I found him in the maintenance room, surprised but delighted to see me. "Little Rita, they said you were gone for good." "Not quite yet." I explained what I needed. His weathered face grew serious as he nodded. "Those access tunnels haven't been used in decades. Your grandfather had them built during the Cold War. Bomb shelter. Paranoia, he called it. But they'll get you where you need to go." At 6:55 a.m., while Jackson and his allies gathered in the boardroom, I was beneath it, following Walter through narrow utility corridors. We emerged through a maintenance panel into a small observation room connected to the boardroom by a one-way glass window, my grandfather's private viewing area for board meetings. "He liked to watch discussions without influencing them," Walter explained. "Said he learned more about people when they didn't know he was listening." Through the glass, I could see Jackson gesturing emphatically to 7 board members. His voice came through clearly thanks to the room's audio system. "Undeniable evidence that Rita Thorne has accessed confidential documents with intent to damage this company. She's colluding with outside interests to block our acquisition by Meridian Global. This acquisition was never approved by the full board," objected Director Patel, one of the few who had consistently questioned Jackson's methods. "The preliminary agreement is standard procedure," Jackson countered smoothly. "The terms are extremely favorable to shareholders." "And what happens to our defense contracts under foreign ownership?" Patel pressed. "Properly structured subsidiaries will maintain all necessary clearances," Grace interjected. "The legal framework is solid." I checked my watch. 7:05 a.m., 25 minutes until the shareholder meeting. I messaged Ellis, "In position, executive session in progress, Webb pushing acquisition approval." His response came immediately. "Federal team ready. Warrant secured." I contacted Yasmin next. "Status?" "Systems prepped. Financial records transferred to secure server. Audio feeds active. Recording everything." The final piece activated. I took a deep breath and messaged Walter. "Now." Seconds later, the boardroom lights flickered. The projector Jackson was using went dark. Emergency lighting activated, part of Walter's controlled power redirection. "Just a system glitch," Jackson assured the room, visibly annoyed. Continuing with the vote, the boardroom doors opened. 2 security officers entered, the same ones who had saluted me the day before. "Mr. Webb," the taller one announced, "the shareholder representatives have arrived for the 7:30 meeting. They're insisting on immediate access as per corporate bylaws." "That's impossible," Jackson snapped. "The meeting isn't for 20 minutes, and we're in closed session." "Actually," I said, entering through the maintenance door, "the bylaws state shareholders may observe any board meeting except those discussing proprietary technology. Since you're discussing an acquisition, they have every right to be present." Jackson's face contorted with rage and disbelief. "How did you—" He regained composure quickly. "This is a private session. Security. Remove her." Neither officer moved. "That won't be necessary," came a new voice. Director Chen entered, flanked by 2 agents in suits. "Jackson Webb, I'm serving you with a federal warrant regarding violations of the Export Control Act and suspicion of espionage." The room erupted in confusion. Grace and Anthony rose, attempting to leave, only to find additional agents at the doors. "This is outrageous," Jackson sputtered. "These accusations are completely unfounded." "Are they?" I approached the boardroom table, placing Imani's documents beside Jackson's presentation materials. These records show identical patterns at 3 different defense contractors. In each case, you implemented the same security downgrades, followed by acquisition by entities linked to foreign intelligence. "Corporate restructuring follows predictable patterns," he countered. "Similar problems require similar solutions, including solutions that compromise national security." I pressed a button on the conference system, and Yasmin's voice filled the room. "Displaying financial transfers now." The screens reactivated, showing detailed transaction records, all payments from foreign entities to shell companies connected to Jackson, Grace, and Anthony. "This is fabricated," Grace protested weakly. "The Justice Department disagrees," Chen replied, "as do the banking authorities in 3 countries who have been tracking these transactions." Jackson's eyes darted around the room, calculating odds, searching for escape routes. I recognized the look. I'd seen it in cornered operatives during my military career. "Rita," he said, voice suddenly reasonable, conciliatory, "surely we can discuss this reasonably. There are aspects of these transactions you don't understand, national security implications that go beyond simple corporate governance." "I understand perfectly," I replied. "You were sent to dismantle my grandfather's company from within, to access our proprietary technology, to eliminate our defense capabilities. What I don't understand is why." Jackson laughed, a hollow sound. "You really don't see it, do you? Your grandfather built more than a manufacturing company. He created a defensive technological framework that has protected American interests for decades. Breaking that framework opens vulnerabilities across the entire defense sector. And who benefits from those vulnerabilities?" His smile was cold. "Everyone who's been waiting for America's industrial advantage to falter." "I've heard enough," Chen interjected. "Mr. Webb, please stand." As agents moved to detain Jackson, he pressed something in his pocket. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the building. "Fire evacuation protocol," he announced calmly. "In approximately 60 seconds, all electronic security systems will reset. All doors will unlock. Standard safety procedure." He'd planned this contingency, created chaos to cover an escape. "Yasmin," I called urgently into my phone. "Override fire protocols. Security lockdown." "Working on it," her voice came through, strained. "Someone's fighting me in the system." Jackson used the momentary confusion to lunge toward the private exit door. I moved to intercept, my damaged leg protesting sharply. We collided near the threshold, his momentum carrying us both into the corridor. "You destroyed my career," I hissed, gripping his arm. "You caused the deaths of my team members." His eyes widened in genuine surprise. "Your career? You think this is about you personally?" He laughed. "Admiral, you were simply an obstacle to removing your grandfather's technological safeguards, an unfortunate casualty in a larger strategy." With a sudden movement, he twisted away, shoving me hard against the wall. Pain exploded through my leg as I fell. Jackson paused, looking down at me with something like pity. "Your grandfather understood the global chessboard. Pity his granddaughter never developed the same strategic vision." He turned to flee, and found himself facing my entire network. Darius from accounting, Linnea from HR, Marco from manufacturing, Trevor from legal. Dozens of employees lined the corridor, forming an impassable human barrier. "These people," I said, rising painfully to my feet, "are my grandfather's legacy. Not the buildings, not the technology, the community he built." Jackson backed away, turning to find Chen and her agents blocking his retreat. "Jackson Webb," Chen announced formally, "you're under arrest for conspiracy, industrial espionage, and violations of the Export Control Act." As agents led him away, the building's intercommunication system activated. Yasmin had regained control. Throughout the facility, employees heard my voice. "This is Rita Thorne. As of this moment, by authority of the board of directors and majority shareholders, I am assuming the position of interim CEO. The acquisition has been terminated. All employee terminations are suspended pending review. We are reclaiming our company's future, together." 3 hours later, as federal agents continued gathering evidence, I sat in what had been Jackson's office, what had once been my grandfather's office. The portrait I'd insisted remain hung on the wall, his kind eyes seeming to approve. Director Chen entered without knocking. "Cleanup is proceeding well. Webb is cooperating. hoping for leniency. Will he get it? That depends on how much he reveals about his handlers. She placed a flash drive on the desk. As promised, information about your final mission, the intelligence failure that cost your team their lives. I stared at the small device. Was it connected to all this? Read it and decide for yourself. She moved toward the door, then paused. By the way, we're recommending your company for a classified defense initiative. The country still needs your grandfather's innovations, and apparently, his granddaughter's leadership. After she left, I stood at the window, overlooking the manufacturing floor. Workers moved with renewed purpose. The news of Jackson's arrest and my appointment spreading rapidly. Walter had already removed the signs announcing the company's rebranding. The Harrington name would remain. I thought of my grandfather's words from long ago. Business isn't just about products, it's about people. I pressed the intercom. This is Rita. I'd like all department heads in the main conference room in 30 minutes. We have a company to rebuild. As I prepared for the meeting, I glanced again at my grandfather's portrait. We did it, I whispered. We protected your legacy. And somewhere, I imagined, he was smiling. If you enjoyed this story of justice and redemption, please hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories of people standing up for what's right. Let me know in the comments what you thought about Rita's journey from military leader to corporate savior. What would you have done in her position? Your support means everything as we continue sharing stories that matter.